We're back, your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly. It's episode number 517, and we're recording live on Tuesday, May the 18th. How are you? What's going on, Abriana?
I'm good. I am, hanging in there, enjoying my last 2 weeks here in Atlanta before I head up to the Northeast. So things are a little crazy, getting packed and trying to get rid of stuff. And, I'm trying to like Marie Kondo my way through life right now, which is lots of fun. I'm finishing out the school year with the kids, so definitely staying busy, but life is good. We're healthy, work is good, busy, but I'm ready for a vacation. Like I'm just ready for some downtime of not doing for a minute. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I like that.
If I get
That sounds good.
it.
Like a dream. Cool. Yeah. Well, things are good up here too. The weather's amazing. Like it's, yeah, I don't know, like 80 or like, ish and sunshine every day right now, which is unbelievable. So it's like summer already here, which is great. And my Blue Jays, played your Braves there last week and swept them, so that was kind of fun. So, you know,
But
uh,
for you.
fun for us, yeah. So that was good because we don't, like it's American League, National League. We don't that doesn't happen too often, right? So it was kind of cool. So that was good. But yeah, things are generally okay, and things are looking up here. Cases are dropping, and vaccines are rolling out, and it's all good. Everybody's healthy and safe. So, all right. Well, we have a good show for you this week. We have four stories that, as usual, that we want to cover off, and we have a guest in the middle of the show. And so I'll let Aubriana start us off.
All right. So this is kind of an interesting story. The idea of blending physical and digital has been not anything new, right? We're hearing lots of stories like this come up, but this is from SK2, I believe is what it's called, but it's a skincare brand from P&G, and they're doing some unique kind of pop-ups and some unique offerings that are mostly in China. But basically, they're leaning into this whole social commerce, gamification, as part of this pop-up that they're doing. And they've done a few different things. So one, they've created this 6-part animated series. It's called VS. They actually had like their own film studio that did this whole, creation. And it's about really they're like sharing this content, kind of like superhero type women, but it's really focused on some Olympians, some that some that I did not know super well, but I saw that they had Lou Changas, I think, is an Olympic athlete, as well as Simone Biles was one that obviously I knew with the gymnastics name. And so they have these, interesting type of experiences, like you can imagine yourself like fighting an underwater creature and all kinds of things. But it's really, supposed to be helping women, understand that there's like social pressures and how they face them. I guess they're relating the two, underwater creatures, social pressures, whatever. And then they also are centering this around the concept of the line is the ride. So I don't really understand this a lot, but the hashtag is change destiny. That's the brand purpose. And they're also using some augmented reality in the store via WeChat, has a mini program, so they can immerse consumers into the animated series. So like you can kind of be part of the video, part of the movies, the films, those 6. And then another feature that they have, which I think is actually really cool, is they have this personalized skin analysis that's using AI, and they do this like analysis with the technology. So it uses facial recognition, and it can say like what are the fluctuations in the skin, assess like the stability around the eye area, make recommendations in about 3 minutes without any direct facial contact, which is nice, like no germ sharing or anything. And they can just I guess recommend or suggest like different skincare items that would be best for where your skin is. It's called the Mini Magic Scan, and they're doing this as well in Tokyo, Shanghai, and Singapore. So, you know, it's interesting. I think the idea of like, first of all, I don't think this works anywhere except where they're doing it, right? This is definitely a very like Asia specific thing to me, the whole gamification. Just how the consumers engage in that area and the culture there. This is a perfect fit. It's a lot of fun. And I like that they brought in the Olympic athletes to show like strong women. I think that's really cool. I don't think there's anything like super mind blowing here about all of these different things that they're doing, but I think they're trying to, try new things, right? They're trying to do the facial recognition. I like this application of it because, you feel comfortable doing it. It's assessing your skin and maybe making recommendations without having to wait, talk to somebody or, have anybody touch your face, which is kind of always weird. So I think it's like there's some really cool things that they're blending here to create an experience to obviously drive customers into the store to kind of have that immersion, that whole like gamification, as well as driving business and hopefully sales as they recommend different products through the mini magic scam. So I think it's pretty cool. It's big and splashy. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely big and splashy. I agree with kind of the overall sentiment that you said, like in terms of, this is something that, plays well in the Asian market, the gamification aspects of it and so on. For me, the kind of two things that really jump out about the story, first is that, where it's happening and the tie-in with the Olympic athletes and all of that, given that currently the games is still scheduled to go ahead in Tokyo. I find it fascinating to me that, a movement like the Olympics, where normally in a normal non-COVID time, there'd be advertising everywhere. Brands would be all over this thing, from McDonald's to, Coca-Cola to this, toy company to whatever. And I don't know about you, but I just haven't seen anything going on in terms of brand tie-ins to the Olympics, and so on. Right now, there'd be TV commercials running, about it by now, promoting it with brand, sponsorships and all sorts of stuff. So, I like that at least Procter and Gamble is trying to do something, albeit locally in the regional markets there, to try and sort of, have some connections to the athletes and tie in and so on. So I'm happy about that. And I guess from on the tech side of thing, the facial recognition, sort of skin scanning component of this, I like. I think it's, it's not, mind blowing new tech out there, but the way that they're sort of deploying it, where it's not like there's no eye contact required on the facial recognition piece. It's really a scan of the skin, and it's looking for those sort of minor fluctuations in the skin and things like that. I think that's really kind of cool that they can come up with an assessment and a recommendation of a particular, skin product, obviously tied into their offering, the SK2 product line. So I like that as well. So I think it's interesting. I think it's got some legs, and finally somebody's doing something, around the Olympics because it's happening. So that's kind of cool. So. All right, on to our second story. So one of our favorite LBMA members and brands that's always doing cool things is Burger King. And they're at it again. They've teamed up this time with Rovio, the makers of Angry Birds. And they've launched a sort of gamification campaign as well. So using a web-based augmented reality platform from a company called Zapper, they've launched this sort of experience around the King Jr. kid meals. And so basically smartphone users scan QR codes on Burger King's, the toys that come in the packaging, the box packaging, the signage inside participating locations. And when you do that, it activates this mobile game. I think one of the cool things about this is that you don't need to go and download some special AR app or anything like that to do this. It's web-based. So, it's basically initiated through that QR code scan. We know QR codes are hot right now for so many different things. So I like that. And I think it really makes this game and this platform super scalable and accessible by many. And so, the game dynamics, for anybody who's played Angry Birds, for me, it's been a while. But basically, there's these sort of challenges they've created where you have to defend these 3D eggs from waves of AR hatchlings, they say, that are trying to steal them, and you tap on the hatchlings to move them away, or use catapults to slime them, or whatever. But all of this is happening in a web-based AR environment. And I think it's really cool. I think it's a neat way to engage and do something I think that many people can take advantage of and have access to because of that web-based nature. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. It's fun. And we've seen other QSRs do Angry Birds. We've seen McDonald's did that several years ago where they had something where you had to go into the store and, participate. I think there was probably a download in that case. And so, like you mentioned, I echo the fact that I think it's really great that they are doing this web-based. There's no actual download. And it's also, it's fun. I think that this is like geared towards kids. So, people are saying like, let's go get a kid's meal. Let's go through the drive-through because we can do this. We don't necessarily have to go in and engage. And I like all of those aspects of it. It kind of makes me think that, this is something fun. Maybe I'll do this with my kids this weekend and maybe try, what is that? The Impossible Burger or something that they have there. So it'll be
Yeah.
like, but yeah, this is good, and it's crazy that Angry Birds is still going, right? Because you've had like the movies and, the video games and everything, and it just continues to stick around. So, I know my kids really enjoy the movies too. So I think this is fun. And I like that, again, that they're just making it like super easy to interact with.
Yeah, totally. And I think that Angry Birds is one of those games that it's so easy. It's there's an addictive level to it, like many games out there. And yeah, I think the McDonald's example you referenced, I mean, that was a project we were actually involved in many years ago in China, where you had to go into the location and basically, by being physically inside of the McDonald's locations and connected to the Wi-Fi networks, you could download sort of additional levels of the game that normally you would have to pay for after you got through all the free ones. So, I love that sort of Rovio's and Angry Birds is got some staying power. So pretty cool. All right, before we jump into the last two stories, as I said at the beginning, we did have a guest this week. I had a chance to sit down with Mark Michael, who's co-founder and CEO of an LBMA member company called DevHub. They've been doing some pretty cool things and growing well during the pandemic, so much so that they've are very excited to make an announcement about an acquisition that will give them some presence on the East Coast in New York. So here's Mark Michael to tell us a little bit more about it and their new acquisition of Brickwork Software. Alrighty, I am very excited because we have a special guest on our show this week. His name is Mark Michael. He's the CEO and co-founder of a well-known LBMA member company called DevHub. Mark, how are you? Welcome.
Good. Thanks, Jasif. Love the LBMA. To me, it was the first industry conference that actually let me speak. So I have a blind loyalty to all of the LBMA members as well as you and Brianna.
Yeah, well, we're excited to connect with you again. You have a bit of a news announcement we're going to discuss today. But before we get into that, just for maybe the 5 people out there who've never heard of you, who is DevHub? Where are you guys based? What are you all about?
Cool. Yeah, thank you. So DevHub is a platform used by just over 179 plus brands and/or advertising agencies that use our tools to build a lot of what we call experiences. So sites, landing pages, and whatnot. In the local world, those look like a store finder, a multi-site CMS, or individual store pages.
Awesome. And you're based in Seattle?
We are, as of this second, based in Seattle.
Awesome. I like it. So the reason we're connecting today and we wanted to kind of bring you onto the show is you have a bit of an announcement to make, which is you've made an acquisition. So tell us a little bit about that and kind of, what's behind it, why you did it, who it is, and kind of what it means for your company.
Yeah. So thank you, Asif. DevHub acquired Brickwork Software. This is the official purchase agreement right here, based out of NYC. If you never heard of Brickwork Software, to us, they were the pioneer in retail tech in terms of driving in-store actions by the consumer, namely appointment setting and event management. So if you heard the intro of what DevHub does, which was store pages, multi-site CMS, obviously marrying that with an action that can actually take place in store is what we're obviously really, really excited about, especially coming out of this post pandemic.
Can you tell us anything a little bit about kind of the deal or the size of the company or kind of who's sticking around?
So, right. So, I mean, what was amazing about Brickwork was the brands that they were able to pick up in the years that they were operating. I mean, there's everything from Nike to Chanel to David Yurman, and they're a team out of New York City, which we hope to retain a lot of them, as well as reopen the Brickwork office there in Soho, New York. Obviously the terms of the deal, according to our lawyers, obviously as Steve knows, I like to just tell everything kind of as it is, so I can sleep like a baby at night. But this one, they told me like I have to actually keep my mouth shut. But it was a significant deal in terms of like the culture fit between what was Brickwork and then DevHub, and I think how we're planning on rolling this out and bringing it out to current Brickwork customers as well as DevHub partners. As this shakes out, obviously I'll update kind of the LBMA community too.
Yeah, so I mean, I think from on the surface, I mean, it sounds like two obvious things I see with this. One is it gives you sort of physical presence, East Coast, West Coast, New York and Seattle. So that's kind of really great from that point of view. People on both coasts in that sense. And then I think too, like what you described of kind of your core of store pages and locators and all that sort of stuff that you guys do extremely well. But now kind of bringing to that the direct connection to the brands, that Brickwork was working with, and sort of moving it, sort of closing the loop, if you will, in terms of, driving the traffic in the one hand, what you're doing, to the physical location. And now like being able to actually take that traffic and look at conversion and monetization and, sort of, bring the Brickwork element of it together all into sort of one ecosystem and one offering. And I think that's, to me, really, really unique, because if you look around at, the others in your segment, most of them, are strictly dealing with that online, SEO, SEM, optimization, locators and all that sort of stuff. They're not playing in the physical bricks and mortar environment. And I think this is a really interesting and unique time to be doing that, right? We're one of the things that we see at the LBMA is a huge amount of activity in buy online, pick up at store. A lot of platforms out there like Glimpse and others that that are LBMA members, where we're seeing a lot of activity in SDKs and things going into retailer apps to kind of drive ordering and delivery and restaurants engagement and all that sort of stuff in terms of knowing where that customer is. And I think this is an element that's been sort of missing in sort of connecting the dots, if you will, in the industry. And I really like kind of the approach that you're taking. Any kind of thoughts on kind of where you see the industry going from here?
Can you write that up for us as like a blog post or something? I mean, you just did it. That was awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's why we're excited. I mean, the other, I guess, component, like you said, SDKs, AP, like the one thing that DevHub has always been ridiculously good at is just staying agnostic. Like we always want our partners and the brands that we work with to win all the time. So like we never built something to just be static for 2013 or whatever. I mean, now we're in 2021. And so like what that experience can be beyond a store page or a finder, like that's like whatever. I mean, that's still like foundational for every brick and mortar retailer, multi-location brand, whatever you want to call it. Basics, you got to have that done. We got your back on that front. But then what those experiences can be beyond just that page, right? Like like you said, buy and pick up in store. Like amazing that right now, if because I'm a little bit of an impulsive shopper, that I can't shop, let's say, Nike Town, Seattle, and actually see what's in store and either purchase it right this second and walk over there because it's 4 blocks away. Have Uber just deliver it to me for like 2 seconds. Let me pay an extra $15 because I want it now. Or 3, just have it shipped to me. And because it's that close, if they can drop it in the mail by end of day, I should have it anyway by tomorrow or the next day. But the fact that those integrations or those capabilities don't exist, is where I think a big opportunity for us working with some of these brands direct as well as through partners to be able to offer and control the narrative of where these local experiences can actually go, which is what obviously we're excited about.
So completely agree with that. And I think there's a massive opportunity to kind of bring those, those experiences together and kind of change, what it means for the consumer, right? At the end of the day, in terms of, enhancing that experience and making it, just quality, from beginning to end. So just kind of last thing, kind of looking into your crystal ball. I mean, you guys did this acquisition. It makes sense for you. It makes sense for the offering kind of coming together. Do you see further activity coming later this year? If you look, for the rest of the year or into next year, do you think there's going to be other acquisitions in the industry? Do you think there's a bit of a roll-up opportunity going on? Anything that you're aware of that you want to share?
Selfishly, if we were, funded, let's say in that way, I know exactly what I would roll up because we're doing it our own way. I 100% believe there has to basically be roll-ups because I think some of the players and what I would kind of call like local search, like, and even a little bit retail tech, but not the back end side, the front end side. But like there's just a lot of overlap, one, and then 2, because of that maybe competition, like a lot of what's being offered is kind of like a commodity, like you're just checking a box. And so I think whoever got to a certain scale and just got burnt out will probably get acquired. And the people who are just scaling with money that they raised, like they have, the clock's ticking on them too. So either they need to exit or diversify their offering and go after a new segment of brands, go after healthcare, and so, yeah, no, 100%, there has to be.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm surprised.
Well, as always, we really appreciate you taking the time and to come and kind of update us on what's going on with DevHub. We're really excited for you. Congratulations on the on this acquisition of Brickwork Software. I think it's just a brilliant move, and I think it's going to serve you guys really well and kind of bring you into kind of a whole new realm, man, of opportunity. So, congrats. Say hi to Daniel for me, and wishing you guys the best for the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, thank you, Steve. Like I said, you were the second person I texted after it happened.
After your wife.
Blind loyalty. Blind loyalty. I don't know why. Again, you gave us the podium, and I'll never forget it. So thank you so much.
So great to connect, man. Stay well, stay healthy and safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Ditto.
Bye.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Mark. We really appreciate you coming on the show. It's always great to see you. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you in person soon at an upcoming LBMA conference once we can get things moving again. So, yeah, that's it.
Mark, we miss you. We need to get together again. When is this all over so we can all go back to Seattle?
Yeah.
Those were fun days. Okay, so on to our next story. So we're going to move over to MomentFeed. And I know that we talked about them not too long ago, and there's lots of, I feel like there's a lot of stories around the topic of photo recognition or, localized photos and search. And, we're seeing a lot of that kind of trending right now between social as well as proximity search, which is MomentFeed. So they do proximity search optimization. And they announced a new offering called Enhanced Local Photos. So what this does is it helps those businesses that have multiple locations to scale and really maximize the SEO value of their location specific, images on Google, Apple Maps, Yelp, all of the above, all the different discovery networks. So, Feed is one of those that is streamlining those multiple locations and looking at things, I think, like ratings and all those others. So now they are kind of expanding this out to be inclusive of those photos as they tie to specific locations. So basically, they're saying that SEO friendly images are very important to organic search and rankings as well. They cited some research that said that businesses with at least one Google My Business photo receive 42% more requests for directions, and obviously, the more photos that are available, the better those numbers are. And, they were saying that brands that have more than 100 images on Google My Business experience 520% more calls. 2,700% more, direction requests and 1,000% more website clicks than the average business. So obviously it's very important. I think that picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So they are just like really amping this up. So, basically the reason for this is that it can be really difficult when you have multiple locations to take this sort of like do it yourself approach where you're just making sure that you're handling the imagery across all of those platforms and across all those different locations. So they'll keep the content libraries, they'll keep things updated. And it just will streamline the entire like photo experience. So it won't be so cumbersome and just make it super simple, for consumers to find them and see the images across all those platforms. So, not really like a groundbreaking thing, but obviously those numbers and the effect that having accurate images across multiple locations can provide, for the enhanced amount of foot traffic it's driving, phone calls, website visits, all of those things is really important. So I think this is a great feature. Obviously, with with a company that may have multiple locations, it could be really complicated to not only manage the local listing and the reviews and all of those things, but also the photography that goes along with it. That's driving people to kind of know, like, what does this location look like inside? Or I don't know, something as simple as, do they have a playground at this one? Or, what are the offerings they have? So all of that I think is super helpful. And it makes sense, for anybody that's managing multiple locations to go through and take a look at how they can drive more business. So
yeah, I think this is really cool. I think it's timely. I think that, right now when everything's online and everything's, sort of e-commerce and, sort of pre-order and all that kind of stuff, really focusing, if you're a retailer or you're a business with locations, everything you can do to optimize, what your appearance online, looks like, is important right now. And I think that from a visual perspective, photos, play a huge role in that. What I like about this is that it's sort of they've kind of put together a service here that's not just, hey, we're sort of managing the, sort of the optimization from a search point of view of that. But obviously that's a huge component of it. But it's kind of like a full turnkey service. Like they've got, somebody who's your dedicated photo manager. They'll arrange for local photographers to take the photos for you. It's sort of like this whole sort of packaged up service. And I think that's really interesting because, if I think about it from the perspective of a small business, yeah, I want to be found. Yes, I can recognize the value of images and photos and having high quality, content that will drive traffic and eyeballs to what I'm doing. But I don't necessarily have the resources to kind of, organize all of that and figure out, how to do that best. So if you can package that up for me and kind of put it all together, I think that makes a ton of sense. So I like it from that point of view. And I think, whether, what Mark just talked about with what, they're doing with DevHub and the Brickwork software acquisition and kind of doing this sort of online to offline sort of connectivity pieces. I think, on the online part of it, I think what these guys are talking about here with their enhanced photo service, I think makes a ton of sense too. So, yeah, I'm excited to see kind of what this might mean for, the industry and in particular for small business. Who just aren't able to do this kind of stuff on their own. So I like it. All right, our final story is an interesting one for me personally. So, Ford, the car company, has patented a new system for billboard connected in car advertising. Basically, the way the patent describes it is a method for generating a billboard interface for a vehicle display that includes obtaining via a camera an image of a billboard and then identifying via a processor a segment of that image. So that's like a lot of gobbledygook technical speak. But essentially what they're saying is, look, using cameras that are in the vehicle, because most modern cars now have cameras, dashboard cams, and all sorts of cameras going on. So using those kind of cameras that are there as a vehicle is on the highway and it sees a billboard on the horizon, it can analyze that billboard and the imagery and segments of that imagery, and then translate that into something that can be turned into an ad that can be displayed in the infotainment system. And so why I'm intrigued by this and I'm excited about it is, you might remember, Brianna, like some years ago, when we were doing all those LBMA sort of pilot projects and experiments, we actually did a project where we kind of put together a billboard company. And in this particular case, we worked at that time with TomTom and Garmin and McDonald's, and basically kind of ran this experimental campaign where the car was driving along, no cameras involved in this, but the car was driving along, and then you would see the billboard for McDonald's on the horizon. We had sort of kind of logged these particular billboards and sort of knew what content was on them. And then, basically as using a sensor, as the car passed that billboard, we would then deliver an ad for McDonald's with an offer and a coupon directly into the TomTom or Garmin system at that time. Just as the car passes by, with directions on how to go and redeem. So that was sort of really rudimentary kind of mashup of technology and stuff going on. This is obviously much more integrated and easier to accomplish, using cameras and other things in there. And it's not some third-party navigation system. It's the built-in, sort of navigation, infotainment system that's going on here. So, first of all, I think this makes a ton of sense. And I think we're going to see a lot of sort of shifting in the telematics and in-car infotainment systems in the coming years, especially as we move more and more to self-driving vehicles, meaning that, the sort of occupants of the vehicle have much more free time, dwell time, that they don't have to be paying attention to the road necessarily. So they're sort of primed for, advertising, if you will, and that kind of thing. So I do think, I think it says two things to me. It says, there's an opportunity to drive, a monetization opportunity within the vehicles from an advertising point of view. And two is I think it creates a new revenue stream for the out-of-home industry overall to kind of blend in with this and tie into this. So, I expect you're going to see, Lamar and Clear Channel and CBS Outdoor and all these companies, really start to play heavily in this space, and, all sorts of partnerships with different car companies, along the way. That being said, the concept of this has been around, obviously Waze does this for a living, right? It's not necessarily directly tied to a billboard, but, they're running, sort of relevant geo-based ads, in your, Waze navigation system all the time. So, but overall, I like the concept of this, and I think it's a good move by Ford.
So I have a slightly different take on this. I think that this is a little bit complicated for me from a consumer perspective, for a couple of reasons. One, I think that when you use Waze, you're downloading a free app. It is a service that you get to use in exchange for those advertising dollars, and that's how they monetize the platform, right? So the value add for me is I get great directions, I get up to date, crowdsourced information about what's going on. And I don't mind the advertising. It's not like super in your face or uncomfortable because it's not distracting. When I think about this application, at least, high level, I think there's a few challenges. One, you paid for that car as a consumer, therefore you should not have to interact with advertising if you do not want to. And I think that that's a different case and scenario. The other thing that I was thinking about is this is basically like ACR, or automatic content recognition, that they're doing with televisions and things like that, to say like what advertising we viewed, and viewership trends, and understanding that at an aggregate, at a whole. But they're doing this now in real life. So I think that the technology is really cool and could be powerful. But I think from a consumer experience, it's sloppy, and it's not going to be, I doubt that they'll put this into production, right? Maybe they're just trying to grab up a patent before anybody else can on this. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely can see the application of using consumer and audience data to reflect digital out of home and billboards, whether that's something that's more of like a 30-day stretch, or, changing things in real time based upon the demographics, or, the type of audience that's passing by at certain times. But when you're bringing that into my car, into my like space, my mind space, I have a problem with that. So I don't know, this is interesting. Like, but also, like you said, if we're going to have more self-driving cars and more relaxation time, and we'll be entertaining ourselves in the cars a little bit differently rather than focusing on driving and accomplishing all of our to-do list, and we can multitask a little more, maybe that changes, but I'm not sure. It's a stretch for me.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, right? I think in today's environment, I think it is, but the potential is there for distraction, right? But I think as we transition into that kind of environment, right, I think it opens up that opportunity, right, for that advertising and that entertainment aspect of things. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. So that's it, folks. That's our show for this week. You've been listening to episode number 517 of Location Weekly. We thank you as always for your time, and we appreciate it. And if you have story ideas, reach out to us. If you have feedback, we want to hear about that too, and give us some love on whatever podcast platform you're consuming this on, or social media. We would appreciate it. So have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week, and talk to you soon. Bye.